The 2024 elections are quickly approaching. The time is now to be election ready. Every 10 years after the U.S. Census, voting districts are redrawn to evenly distribute the population. Then precinct lines are updated. This means some voters will have a new Election Day polling location. The Miami-Dade Elections Department will be mailing all voters a new voter information card with this information. Keep a lookout for yours. Learn more by calling 311 or visit miamidade.gov/elections.
ShopRite's top 3 reasons to try Order, Pickup, Deliver. Number 1, shop all the same products and prices as in store, but with additional savings of online promotions. Number 2, easily load digital coupons as you shop online or on the app. Number 3, quickly reorder past purchases for an even faster checkout experience. Plus, EBT payments and same-day pickup or delivery available. Guess those are reasons 4 and 5. Shall we keep going? ShopRite's Order, Pickup, Deliver. Your favorites fresh and fast.
Rockstar Energy Punched, bringing a bold and unapologetic flavor packed with energy through a blend of B vitamins, guarana extract, and 240 milligrams of caffeine to fuel what's next. Rockstar Energy Drink.
You're listening to a BGE podcast.
Friends and family gather round and fire up the barbecue. Let the smoke waft and float, that's what we're gonna do. You can't deny there's nothing like friends and family and food. Don't sit still, pull out your grill, we're gonna have a barbecue.
We've got some feedback we're going to be getting to from some of our listeners. Update, I guess you could say, a little bit more information about accessibility when it comes to the meter block that we've been talking about in times past. It's Labor Day weekend. Hope everybody's fired up the grills.
Fire up the barbecue. Fire up the barbecue.
Welcome back to this episode of The Blind Grilling Experience. My name is Chris Peltz. I am the most interesting griller in the world. And folks, we've got some good feedback that I want to be sharing with you guys. I hope everyone has had a wonderful holiday weekend. You've been firing up those grills and throwing it down, flame kissing some steaks, whether ribeyes or pork chops or appetizers for game day. Hope your favorite college ball teams have done well over the weekend. And, of course, we're getting ready for the start of the NFL season this week. Kansas City Chiefs are going to be playing on Thursday night opener. So I'm kind of excited about that. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. Been doing a lot of things. The last few weeks, I know I mentioned that, I think last week has been really busy because I'm trying some new little toys out in the workshop, some little jigs, some I've made, some that we've purchased. We had some, I don't know if I would say excitement in the workshop, but there's been some crazy things that definitely had the heart racing. My wife was actually using the bandsaw when the band busted, and that made such a pop. And I was across the garage, and of course, I don't know what's happening, and it freaked us both out. It was pretty scary when it happened. No one was hurt, nothing was wrong. As far as that is concerned, but we do have to replace the blade on the bandsaw. And so, when that thing went off, though, woo, buddy, that was that was pretty scary. Yeah, no doubt about it. That was nerve-wracking. But we've been making some little ring boxes, which are so cool. They are really neat, and I'm doing some new joinery with these things. Super small, not just a box joint, but what they call a center box joint, a centered box joint, I believe it's what it's called, and a mitered joint for an inside set. So it's like one box inside another, and the outside box has the box joints, and then the inside has the miter joint, and it's a little tricky, but we're getting it worked out. And some of the other projects we've got going out there are trucking along pretty good as well. But there's been a few things on the grill front as well. One of them we're going to talk about after we discuss some of the feedback that we've gotten on propane tanks, because this running out of fuel in a propane tank is something that I think anyone who ever has had a gas grill or flat top has experienced. They've gone through. So we're gonna dive into that a little bit, and maybe, just maybe, provide you with a tip to help you learn just how full your tank may be or not be, whatever the case may be. So, but before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about the meter again, the Meter Plus, MEATER, Meter Plus. It is a meat probe, and on this program, I've been very vocal that the Meter Plus is great. It's completely accessible. Get it. But the meter block is not accessible. While you can put a bump dot on to find out where the touchscreen is on the charging base and get it at least powered on, you then have to have sighted assistance to get it to where you can, you choose the Bluetooth or the Wi-Fi setting. Once you have that sighted assistance, it was my understanding you could then use it without any issue or without any problem. I've got a little bit more information about this. A listener to the program, Sean, down in Texas, contacted me, and we had a good discussion, good talk about it. I explained a little bit more detail why I don't recommend getting the meter block, but he wanted the 4 Pros, which I don't blame him. I mean, to buy 3 Meter Plus probes by themselves, as opposed to the meter block, which comes with 4 Meter Plus probes, in a set, it's so much cheaper to do that. I mean, I get that 100%. And if you're going to have sighted assistance to get it turned on each time and go with it, then all well and good, And so that's what Sean decided to do ultimately is to go with that. He's found out a little bit more, but what I really love, and Michelle is going to read to us the email from Sean. He forwarded me the email that he wrote to customer service for the meter probes, and I'll let you guys listen to it, and then we'll talk a little bit about what he wrote.
Hello. My name is Sean, and I recently purchased your meter block from Amazon. I used it for the first time this weekend on 3 separate cooks. First, I am totally blind and had heard that your iOS app was generally accessible when using VoiceOver, which is Apple's screen reader for users who are blind or visually impaired. I chose the meter block over the Meter Plus, even though I would need sighted help turning on the meter block since it has a touchscreen. Unfortunately, when I get to the meter block turned on, there are several areas within the app that are not accessible to me. First, I can only set up cooks on the first 2 probes, even though all 4 are connected both via Bluetooth and MeterLink. I had someone who is sighted watch me, and I can pull up the screen for probes 3 and 4, but the Setup Cook button cannot be activated when VoiceOver is on. Also, I am unable to find a way to cancel a cook should I need to. I was prompted and completed the most current update this weekend, and this did not correct the issues above. I love your product and really enjoy not having to deal with the wires. However, it is disappointing that I cannot fully utilize it as designed. I have considered returning it and getting multiple Meter Pluses, but I assume I will face the same issues when adding the 3rd and 4th probe. While this may be an option, the simplicity of using The meter link with the meter block is the best option for me. I would appreciate it if you could engage your software engineers to review and address the bugs above that I have identified in the Meter iOS app. I would be more than happy to beta test any updates in the future. I have over 25 years of experience in application development, so I am very familiar with this process. Also, I think if you made a minor change to the firmware of the block, which will allow the user to totally control the block via the app, including setting up either Bluetooth or MeterLink. That would allow individuals who are blind like me to be totally independent using the Meter products. Note, other than the above, in general, I found the app very accessible with VoiceOver. I was able to use the UI to set up the cooks and monitor their progress. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing back from you.
So, first of all, I want to say to Sean, kudos. I mean, this I thought was so well done, so well put. And eloquent in so many ways when addressing the company about their product, because he gets directly to the point, to the issue. He lets them know that it's the great things about it, that he loves it, he likes it a lot. There are some things that are very accessible. It's handy. Some ways that they could improve it, some ways that they could make it accessible, and even offered to help, right? He could be a part of the process, and that he is certainly one who would have not only the skills, but also the experience to help with this type of update with either the firmware, whatever it is that needs to be done. So the way he presented it, the way he wrote it, first of all, I wanted to put it out here to folks because I think it's awesome. And I also wanted to illustrate just how to go about, because this is a question that I've had in times past. How do you approach a company that has a product that you like, that you want to use or use more, have more access to features that maybe you can use it partially but not completely? Yeah, I mean, how do you approach a company? And reading this email, I thought he did a great job. I really do, and I appreciate him reaching out to the company and sharing it with us, so we kind of know what's going on. I do know that he's not the only one who's reached out to Meter for this type of thing. There are two of our listeners that I'm aware of. Many of you know Mike Calvo, who has been on the podcast and other podcasts as well for the companies that he's a part of. I know he has reached out to them. Michael, who's also in Florida, has reached out to them and tried to get some things done. But sometimes you just never know what it's going to take, right? You never know what's going to be that last little bit. And so, myself, Mike, and Michael, and now Sean, and probably others. There have been those of us who have reached out to them to try and get this to where it is usable and accessible. Because like Sean said, yeah, he could probably buy 4 individual probes, but that, you're almost doubling the cost, especially when you get the sales happening. And then you don't know if you're going to run into the same problem that he ran into. And this is something I wasn't aware of. Sean pointed out that 2 of the probes fine. Once he has site assistance to get it going, he can control 2 of the probes. But then what about the other 2? Right? He can't get to the other 2 probes, and so only half of what he's purchased is accessible to begin with. Right? And so again, it's an unfortunate situation in that respect. But maybe this will be one of the the email that really gets the attention of the company, and so I appreciate that. And I appreciate him sharing it with me. I wanted to share that update with you guys. Again, the Meter Plus, completely accessible right out of the box. You get it set up, but it is one meat probe, right? It has an ambient probe on it as well, but it's one little, almost like the size of an ink pen or pencil, that, no wires. It's a great product. It's well made. There's so many great things about it, but then there's the block, which, comes with 4 of these probes, and they've completely dropped the ball on this. And hopefully, they'll take serious consideration and a serious look at what Sean has presented to them, and get to that. I think it would be to their benefit, because if they get this changed in a relatively short period of time, I'll be shouting it from the rooftops, right? I mean, I'll be praising them and recommending, the block. We have provided a meter plus to, a few folks, and I would be more than happy as far as, Blind Grilling is concerned in packages to provide an accessible meter block. It's just, the question is, are they going to fix it? Are they going to take care of it? Or are they still going to leave, those who are blind or visually impaired, leave us in the dark, I mean, so to speak. Yeah, right? I mean, no pun intended, but that's kind of what they've done with this particular product, which is so a shame, because it is such a great product, and because it is the single unit, the Meter Plus, is just so completely accessible, and to think, oh, wow, well, I can get 4 instead of just 1. And then no, you can't. You can't use it, even by itself. And even if you get sighted assistance, set it up to begin with, then you can only use half of it with 2 probes. You can't use the other 2. So that, I wasn't aware of that aspect of this. So that was good to know. Appreciate that. And we'll see, any other updates I get, I will be happy to pass them along, share them with all of you. But that's where we are with the Meter Plus. Still recommend the Meter Plus. Do not recommend the Meter Block for this very reason. We do have another email I'm going to get to in just a minute, but if you guys want to contact us, info@blindgrilling.com is our email address, info@blindgrilling.com. And of course, you can go to our website, blindgrilling.com as well. Our next email comes from a friend of the show, Kevin in Indiana. Kevin emailed us. Oh man, he's had some excitement and a little bit of drama with a cook, and it's great because it is one that I can relate to 100%. Man, I mean, this is great. So here's Michelle again reading us the email from Kevin.
The other night, we got 6 100% grass-fed T-bones out of the freezer. My wife's still not a fan of grass-fed steaks. She loves the nutrition and the health benefits. That's why I got started in this realm, but she doesn't care for the steaks. I was determined to win her over. We soaked them in baking soda water for 20 minutes, seasoned them, and put them on the green egg for 300 degrees to minimize the smoke taste per my wife's preference. All was going well. They got to about 110 degrees internal temp, and I fired up the Blackstone to get ready to sear them. It was then that I realized I was out of propane. By the time I got the new tank connected, the internal temp was up to 135 degrees. I should have opened the lid of the green egg when they hit 120, but I didn't. I started moving the steaks to the Blackstone, but it wasn't up to temp yet, so there was no sizzle. I left them on a couple of extra minutes and flipped them. Also, in the process of transferring them, I snagged the temperature probe and managed to drag the cord between the flame boss and the plug and the extension cord it was connected to. It made a wonderful arcing sound. Meanwhile, as I was flipping the steaks for the final sear, I realized I had no bowl to put them in. My wife was up by the house working up tomatoes, so I called to her to bring me a bowl. I didn't want all the steaks to be overdone, so I turned off the burners and stacked all the steaks on top of each other. She arrived with the bowl, and I was a little deflated. I was sure that the steaks would be less than desirable, and that I was concerned that I had fried my flame boss. We brought the steaks to the table, and much to our surprise, they were nearly perfect. My wife absolutely loved them, and my flame boss lived to see another cook. The pork chops last night were a tad dry, but much less eventful and still delicious. I thought you might enjoy this little story. Thanks again for the encouragement you give many of us.
Kevin, thank you. Thank you for, sending us the email, sharing with us the story. Man. Oh man, I'm reading this. I'm like, I've done that, been there, and maybe a couple things I haven't done. I haven't snagged the cord of the Flame Boss. Oh man, that would be, whoo, man, hearing that spot, that arcing sound and not being able to see what's going on, dude, that's, but I'm glad it's well. I'm glad, the Flame Boss is still trucking along for you. That's a good thing. And the cook, dude, that's, that is a crazy, crazy time. And looking back, right, when you're going through it, it's almost like a rush in slow motion. I mean, it's like everything is happening so fast. You feel so rushed, so hurried, and yet everything is taking forever to get taken care of. Oh man, that is crazy. There's a couple of things I want to address, and probably more so for our listeners. And I'll kind of take this one thing at a time, just in case some folks are wondering why you mentioned a few things that you mentioned. First of all, the soaking in the baking soda water. That is a trick that I have seen or heard on some YouTube channels that people swear by that. I've never done it, actually, but that's interesting. I don't know if you've done that a lot, Kevin. If you want to email me again and let me know if that's something you've done a lot of, if you do it all the time, or if that's something new that you tried. I just, to be honest with you, every time I go to do a steak, I forget about that. I just don't think about it at the time. And I've never tried it. Again, I've heard about it, but I've never tried it. And so, that's interesting. That's interesting. I appreciate that. Then of course you said that you did them at 300. You're going to do the reverse sear, but you did it at 300 instead of a lower temp like 250 or 275 because of the smoke, right? You wanted less smoke for your wife. And that's, the higher the temp, really kind of the less smoke flavor that you will get. That's certainly true when it comes to pellet grills and generally true when it comes to some of the charcoal grills as well, especially if you don't use wood chunks. You just rely on the good solid, like a Fogo charcoal or something like that, much subtler, smoke profile, if any, at the higher temp, which is great. And then, right out of propane, man, I went to do a reverse sear a few weeks ago and the same thing happened. We had some folks over. I had my buddy Russell was here and I was like, hey, let's fire up the flat top. I've got a Camp Chef, but let's fire up the flat top and I'm getting ready to pull off this. I think we had I think it was the pork chops a while back. We were going to do the pork chops that we drizzled the blackberry reduction onto. And so I was reverse searing those and I'd run out of fuel. I was like, oh no. And it was crazy too, because we grabbed the sous vide torch and it wasn't working right. And so I couldn't sear it with the Blackstone or flat top rather, or with the sous vide torch. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so I've been there, man, done that. And it's not the first time I've run out of propane, with the flat top or on a gas grill years ago. So yeah, man, been there, done that. And then of course with you snagging that cord, that's, oh yeah. And yeah, you always need something else, whether it's an extra set of hands or like, a bowl or platter, something to put them steaks on, I can relate, no doubt about it. But I'm glad it turned out. Sometimes it's amazing how well something can turn out when at first it seems like it's nothing but disaster. And you probably couldn't replicate that whole scenario again if you tried. And even if you tried and you did some things, the stakes would turn out completely different. But yeah, that's neither here nor there, I guess. So, but then after you did the T-bones, you did the pork chops, which turned out good for you as well. And yeah, sometimes those pork chops they're easy to dry out because a lot of folks, if you lose track of the temp, you can overcook them in a heartbeat. And again, that's where, they say USDA is 145 degrees internal temp. I take them to 140, but I'll stop short of that, maybe 138 or so when I know I'm going to sear. And, so I'll pull the pork chops, at about 138 and then sear them and bring them up to temp. And that usually helps keep them from drying out. Also, if that's a pig that you've had processed yourself, you might try brining instead of just pulling it out, seasoning and grilling. Brining might be a really good option, or just for anybody who has struggles with pork chops or a pork loin or something like that, drying out in your cook. A wet brine overnight, can give you a little bit more, forgiveness, I guess you could say, when it comes to that type of cook, for sure. But thank you. I appreciate you, all the kindness that you guys send our way, the feedback that we get. It is great, and we really appreciate it. But I wanted to share those emails with you guys because, man, we're all getting through this together, right? And to know some of the struggles that we each have, I think is helpful because you can see you're not the only one going through it. You're not the only one having the difficulties. And, not every cook turns out this way. And even when things seem to be as though they are going the wrong way, they can turn around in a hurry and end up just superb or tremendous, as our buddy John Grimes would say. And so that's just great. That is just great. Well, like I said, I've run out of propane, and I did it not that long ago. And I've looked into some ways to try and keep this from happening. And I've found a way that there may be some subtle nuances that won't work. I know a lot of folks think, there are regulators sometimes that have a gauge on them that will tell you how much fuel is in the tank. But they're not accessible. I don't know of any accessible gauges for propane tanks, right? So you got a 20-gallon propane tank. Weber has a gauge on some of their grills that's built in. You can buy third-party gauges to attach to your grill or to your propane tank, but they're not accessible. So for those who are blind or visually impaired, without sighted assistance, they're useless. They don't tell us anything. Now, I understand you can use, an app where you call a sighted assistance, or maybe with all this new AI stuff that's coming out, that it might be able to generate a picture and read it to you, and so you would know. So that, but ultimately, there's a lot of folks still not using that technology, and they just don't want to call. And I'm one of them. I just hadn't gotten to the point where I want to call up, and I applaud those who do, who use the Be My Eyes or Envision, or I use the Envision app, but the apps that allow you to call someone and have a sighted assistance through the phone, I haven't used, and I don't know. I just, it's something I need to get over, right? I get that, talking about my own shortcomings here, when it comes to that. Because I know there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't know. I just haven't brought myself to do it yet. I've called my kids through FaceTime, right? Or my wife through FaceTime, but I haven't done it, on one of these other apps. And I need to. I really need to, because I know it is beneficial and it is helpful. But with that said, there is another way that you may be able to tell how much fuel you have in your propane tank. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it works. And I'll talk about, all the variables that I haven't tested this in, but this is something you can try. Heat up some water, right? Get some water, some really hot water, or maybe your tap water would be hot enough. Ours is. So get it extremely hot. Get a pan or a bowl full of extremely hot water. You take it out and you pour it down the side of your propane tank. And once you pour that hot water down the side of your propane tank, you put your hand on the side of the propane tank towards the top where you've poured the water, and it's going to be hot from that hot water. And run your hand down the side of that tank until it gets cold, because that propane is absorbing the heat, and that the tank will become cool where the propane is at. And so you'll be able to tell just how full or how low your propane is by going down to where it gets cool, in that transition from the hot water on the hot metal tank down to where it gets cool, where the propane is at inside. And you'll know just exactly how much fuel you've got. Now, I have mine in a shaded area to begin with. It's not in direct sunlight. And I'm not, I would have to move a lot of stuff to get my propane tank in direct sunlight. Cause I've thought about that. It's like, well, what if in that situation, how does that work? I don't know. I can't tell you if it works 100% in that respect. It might. And if you have tried it, and you can, or if you want to try it, and email us and say you've got a tank that, is in, that gets pretty hot because it's got the sun beating down on it anyway. And see if you can feel it and tell any difference from where the propane is. But pour that hot water on it, and it should absorb or transfer some of that heat from that hot water on the side of the tank. And there should be a difference from where you've poured the water, from where it is empty and where it has propane. So let us know. Let us know if there's any different. info@blindgrilling.com is our email address. And so I'm real curious. I'm real curious about that. But I think it's a cool little trick that you can use, especially if you've been cooking for a while, you've done several cooks, and you're like, man, how low am I? Is it low enough where I need to go ahead and change it? Can I get a few more cooks out of it? Because sometimes we think, well, I get this many cooks before I run out. Well, sometimes, one cook may last longer than another, something else, other things happen. And lots of other variables that can, maybe you think, oh, I got one more cook, one or maybe two at the most. And then you get right either at the beginning or right in the middle of it, and you run out of propane. That's just, it's one of the worst things that can happen. Thankfully for Kevin, right, he had the big green egg. I mean, the meat had basically cooked, so they were going to be able to eat regardless. It wasn't like he had, completely uncooked meat on a grill that he couldn't even fire up. He had cooked them doing the reverse sear using the big green egg, and then getting ready to sear it on the flat top. But sometimes people fire up those gas grills or those griddles, and that's all they've got, and they run out of propane, and they're just what do you do, right? And if you don't have an extra tank right there handy, you've got to go and get one, or get somebody to go and exchange it out for you. And that might not be the easiest thing to do sometimes. And so if you're real curious about how much you've got, you might try this little trick with the hot water and see how well that works for you, because I think it's something that will be pretty helpful, pretty beneficial for a lot of folks. And let me know if you try it. info@blindgrilling.com. Did everybody who is involved in the fantasy football draft get the teams that they wanted, get the players rather that they wanted? Kind of curious about that. Also, I know there's been a lot of folks been involved in the in these fantasy football drafts, and that which is really cool. I mean, that's it's not something I've been involved in as much, but I know a lot of folks have contacted us and said that they were cooking up lots of things, from the jalapeno poppers to the buffalo chicken dip to the sausage fatties. So yeah, a few folks have even mentioned the trying the pork belly burnt ends that we talked about last week, and so you guys are staying busy with the cook, so that's awesome. That is awesome, and we're trying to do the same here as well. Got a few cooks planned for this week. We'll see how it goes. My wife really likes to see it, and which is a great thing for us, because I would just spend so much money on meat. But we did a stir fry with some chicken and some shrimp the other night, and it's been a long time. But I've got a wok for my big green egg. I really need to break that out, especially with the weather being like it is in this fall. And not being so hot outside, put the wok there on the big green egg and do some stir fry and maybe some fried rice and things out there on the grill. Those are always awesome cooks, and just fun being outside and enjoying the beautiful weather that we're able to get, especially here in the Ozarks. And so, we'll see how all that goes. Hopefully they're going to have some steaks on sale, and also have some halibut that a friend of mine who'd gone to Alaska brought back and shared it with us. So I'm going to be cooking up some halibut pretty soon as well, and we'll let you know how that all goes also. All right, folks, once again,
friends and family gather round and fire up.
Appreciate everybody tuning in to the Blind Grilling Experience. Check out our website, blindgrilling.com. Shoot us an email, info@blindgrilling.com. Be sure and follow us on all the social medias, from LinkedIn to Facebook. Join the Facebook group, Blind Grilling Experience. And, of course, youtube.com/blindgrilling and facebook.com/blindgrilling. Until next time, remember, if you're looking, you ain't cooking.
Don't worry what you gotta do. 'Cause if you're looking, you ain't cooking. Fire up the barbecue. Fire up the barbecue.
Rockstar Energy Punched, bringing a bold and unapologetic flavor packed with energy through a blend of B vitamins, guarana extract, and 240 milligrams of caffeine to fuel what's next. Rockstar Energy Drink.
Every parent wants to witness the many firsts in their child's life. First steps, first word, first haircut. But what about their first bite of beef? Complete with nutrients like iron, zinc, choline, B vitamins, and protein, it's vital for strengthening little minds and little bodies, making that first bite of beef a moment for everyone to savor. Together, we bring more. Beef. It's what's for dinner. Funded by beef farmers and ranchers.
ShopRite's top 3 reasons to try Order, Pickup, Deliver. Number 1, shop all the same products and prices as in store, but with additional savings of online promotions. Number 2, easily load digital coupons as you shop online or on the app. Number 3, quickly reorder past purchases for an even faster checkout experience. Plus, EBT payments and same-day pickup or delivery available. Guess those are reasons 4 and 5. Shall we keep going? ShopRite's Order, Pickup, Deliver. Your favorites fresh and fast.